Welcome to today's explainer. But, well, consider this your formal welcome to a very different kind of laboratory. We aren't looking at beakers or Bunsen burners today. No, we're stepping into the grim, dark crucible of Salvio Pálido, the Pale Inquisitor. We're going to explore the most horrific yet enlightening laboratory in existence, the human mind. So, prepare yourselves, because we are going to systematically dismantle the illusions you've built about your own innocence.
Pálido's philosophy kicks off with a terrifying premise. Quote, "The true rot is not the plague of the blood. It is the heresy of the unexamined thought." You know, you weep for the flesh, don't you? You worry about your physical ailments, yet the flesh is merely a crude curtain. I used to pore over holy waters and calcified herbs, praying to mend broken bones, until quicksilver burned away my blindness. I realized then that the real sickness isn't in your veins. It's the silent, cynical calculations hidden right behind your eyes.
Section 1. The Laboratory of Deceit.
To Salvio Pálido, your mind is absolutely not a tool for reason. Actually, it's an alchemical laboratory where you brew sins in the dark. You distill justifications out of your own malice, all while smiling and calling it mere survival. This is exactly what he calls the heresy of unexamined thought, the internal rot you harbor. And to combat this heresy, the Inquisitor uses what he calls atavistic fires. Think of it as a primordial vision, the ancient sight of the first dawn that completely bypasses all your clever excuses and sees only your raw, naked impulse.
So how does he do it? The Inquisitor utilizes a precise, unflinching three-step process. First up, bypass language entirely. Second, see the raw, naked impulse before words can even shape or mislabel it. And third, burn away the gray matter of the ego like wet parchment. He doesn't care about the stories you tell yourself, right? This method looks right past your excuses to judge the monsters you feed in the shadows of your conscience.
Section 2. The Weight of Hidden Guilt. Let's descend into our first case study, the parable of the hidden forge. Consider this pious blacksmith. By day, he's the picture of virtue, forging plowshares for the poor in his grand workshop above ground. But beneath his workshop, down in a secret iron vault, he spends his nights hammering wicked spikes. He pours his silent malice into weapons meant to kill his rivals. It is a perfect, chilling embodiment of the deception we all practice.
Now, when the Inquisitor of the Mind entered that forge, he completely ignored the grand tools up top and pointed his staff straight at the stone floor, and he didn't even need to dig. The dark irony here is that the mind collapses under the weight of its own unconfessed malice. The sheer, literal weight of the hidden iron had already caused the blacksmith's foundation to crack. The structural damage to his character was the ultimate proof of his heresy.
So I really have to ask you, what heavy iron are you forging in the dark beneath your own workshop? We all project that daytime illusion of righteousness, for sure, but what hidden resentments and cynical calculations are actively weighing down your own foundation right now?
Section 3. Hypocrisy of External Purity.
Moving deeper into the psyche, imagine a grand cathedral boasting a choir with voices so pure they could literally make the saints weep. Total external perfection. But the Pale Inquisitor? He doesn't listen to their voices. He walks among them and places a cold hand directly against their temples. In that mental silence, he finds minds plotting murder, cursing the poor, and drowning in lust, all while their mouths sing perfect praises.
The Inquisitor strikes them silent. Why? Because a beautiful tongue is merely a decorative shroud if the mind beneath is a breeding ground for maggots. Let that sink in. External righteousness is utterly meaningless if the quiet space inside your head where your actual self lives is diseased. If it is, you are committing the heresy of unexamined thought.
Section 4. Shattering futile mental walls. Okay, consider a powerful warlord. This guy spent his entire life building an impenetrable fortress of logic and memory to protect his darkest secrets. We're talking a lifetime of memorized codes, buried documents, and executed witnesses, all just to hide his early treasons. He genuinely thought his intellect could build a wall that absolutely no one could breach.
But that mighty fortress? It simply melts. When the Pale Inquisitor arrived, he didn't bring siege engines, he didn't even argue logic. He simply sat across from the warlord and stared directly into his pupils. The raw panic of being truly seen heated the warlord's own thoughts until his entire lifetime of logic and memory melted like glass under the examiner's gaze. It's a wry, terrifying reminder of how absurdly fragile our mental barricades really are when we're forced to face our own naked impulse.
Section 5. The Beast of Primordial Thought.
Civilization is just a thin coat of paint over a deep, atavistic well of human brutality. Imagine a village that arrogantly prided itself on its modern, civilized laws. The citizens honestly convinced themselves they'd outgrown the savage ways of their ancestors, mostly because they had fancy words to describe their actions.
So, the Inquisitor puts their civilization to the test. At sunset, he introduces an alchemical salt into their water supply. By nightfall, this salt effectively strips all modern language from the villagers' minds. And by midnight, without words to dress up their actions as civilized business, the citizens turned into snarling beasts, tearing at each other for food and gold. Language, as it turns out, was merely a mask.
When we synthesize these descents, the pattern of human delusion is just undeniable. The hidden forge shows how secret guilt collapses our foundation. The silent choir reveals hypocrisy as a shroud over maggots. The glass fortress proves logic melts before the truth, and the untended well exposes our civilized words as a mask for snarling brutality. Every single human mind utilizes these exact same futile deceptions in its own internal laboratory.
Section 6. The Ash of Absolute Truth.
This brings us to Pálido's terrifying ultimate promise, quote, "And I will burn the heresy out of your thoughts until nothing remains but the ash of absolute truth." This isn't just destruction for destruction's sake, no. The Inquisitor's purgative fire is specifically designed to incinerate the mental deceptions and those silent calculations so that what's left behind is undeniable, absolute clarity. It is the ultimate alchemical purification.
As we conclude this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. When the atavistic fire strip away your language and your logic, what monsters will be left standing in the ash? It's time to perform your own shadow work. Look deeply into your laboratory of deceit and examine your thoughts before the Pale Inquisitor comes to do it for you.